want to say a few things about Mr. Trump in general before we get into the latest developments on the D&I Tulsi Gabbard new intel front. Here is in general why I'm so exercised about this. 66% of Democrats, as I mentioned yesterday, believe that the Russians, quote, altered vote tallies, changed vote tallies is the way it was phrased in the poll, changed vote tallies to elect Donald Trump. Okay? So a substantial percentage of the country believe that Donald Trump was illegitimately elected, that the Russians put him there. Jimmy Carter said it. A bunch of other Democrats said it. Hillary said it for 4 years. So if you are a Democrat listening to my program and you voted for Hillary and you voted for Kamala, listen to me very carefully. You think that people support Trump, not only supporting somebody who's a fascist and a racist and a Nazi and all the things you say, but you think that we, A, believe that the Russians elected Trump, and B, were perfectly okay with it. That's what you think. That's exactly what you think. And the reason these documents are making the Democrats' head explode is because it's showing that there was considerable skepticism, doubt, if not an outright rejection of the idea by the intelligence community that the Russians were trying to help Trump, which is what you've said, which is what you've convinced 2/3 of Democrats to believe. In fact, that's just 2/3 about the vote tallies. 78% of Democrats believe that the Russian interference, quote, altered the outcome of the election, close quote, even though Jay Johnson testified under oath, I have no idea what impact the Russian interference had. No idea. I'd have to be a mind reader, he said. I'd have to have a world where there's Russian interference, one where there wasn't, compare the difference. I cannot do that, so I don't know. But 78% of Democrats believe the Russian interference altered the outcome of the election, close quote, even though the professionals made no such argument. So you're going to have to rethink. Altered the outcome of the election. Now, there was an extensive study done by the NYU Stern School of Management looking into the impact of the Russian interference. And they interfered two ways. One was they bought about 5,000 Facebook ads. And as I said before, part of them were pro-Trump, part of them were pro-Hillary, part of them were anti-Trump, anti-Hillary, pro-Black Lives Matter, anti-Black Lives Matter. And the study found that most of the people who saw those, by the way, were conservatives. The other way they altered it is they had a whole bunch of Russian bots, these are fake Twitter accounts, saying this, that, and the other. And the Stern School of Management concluded that the effect of the Facebook ads was barely measurable, and the effect of the Twitter ads had no effect on polarization, on voter attitudes, or on voting behavior. In other words, a big, fat nothing burger. Yet Democrats are convinced, but for the Russians, this man would not have gotten elected. But for the Russians, this man could not have gotten elected. And what Tulsi Gabbard has exposed is that the intel community had considerable doubt about whether or not the Russians were doing this to help Trump, and they certainly never concluded that they were successful in doing so, which refutes how most Democrats feel, at least about 2016. You really think we would be okay? Well, Trump's there. He's our guy. Yeah, the Russians put him there, but we don't give a rip as long as it's our guy. Really? That's what you think? Just as you think we'd be okay with him mocking a disabled reporter. Wow.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.